So let's dig into the idea of fallacies. And we're going to start with a particular category, fallacies of relevance. You're going to have categories within categories within categories and then examples, but it's really not that complicated once you get a few basic ideas down. So let me start with those. Let me start with just what do I mean by a fallacy? It's an illogical argument. It does not necessarily mean it's wrong. It usually is, but it's not necessarily false. It's that the logical process that got there wasn't a logical process. The reason we talk about them, like if it's not a logical process, then who cares, is because they're very, very effective in the short term. A logical fallacy very commonly feels right to us. It confirms something that seems like it should be true or a sense of how the world should work. And because of that, they're very, very effective. We're going to see them most commonly advertising and politics. That is the bedrock of them, because in those mediums, a person needs to persuade you to do something now, not to change your mind over the long term. They need you to take action immediately that is quite likely not in your best interests. And the only way to do that is to get you fired up through a false sense of importance or urgency or accuracy. Now, within that, there are a ton of different specific kinds of fallacies, but they tend to fall into several different categories. And that's where we're going to start, is with this idea of a fallacy of relevance. That's in which there's a pattern of reasoning that's incorrect, in other words, that the reasons don't add up to the conclusion. They're giving reasons. They just don't reach that conclusion. It just kind of feels like they do. This is a classic one of literally not adding up. You see a shirt you want, it's $97, and you don't have the money. You borrow $50 from your mom, $50 from your dad, that's $100. You buy the shirt, they give you $3 back, you give your dad $1 back, your mom $1 back, and you've still got the other one yourself, which means you owe your mom $49 and your dad $49, but you still have your dollar. That adds up to $99. Where'd the other dollar go? This is something that it immediately feels like, wait a minute, what? That's how a logical fallacy works. I'm just going to go through a few basic ones right here. Starting with these. Now, these are some of the most common ones. And again, there are many, many, many fallacies. Some of them are super interesting. Some of them have cool Latin names. We're going to start with some of the ones that are we're going to see most commonly. The first being the red herring fallacy. This is, especially in politics, you're going to see this a lot. This is where you change the subject by, you're either, as I say here, ignoring criticism or evading answering a question by switching the topic. And often, if you're doing it well, making it seem like it's still the topic, but it's not. So somebody accuses you of cheating on a test and that was a really terrible thing to do. And you say, well, what are morals, right? Who gets to decide what's moral and what's not? That's not answering the accusation. All right, the next one is the appeal to fear. This is, in other words, a scare tactic. You are connecting the fear B to action A without any necessarily proven connection between the two. If we do this terrible thing will happen. If you vote for this political party, it will be the literal end of the world, right? We've seen a ton of that from all directions in the last few years. All right, the appeal to authority then. This is one, now again, this is an important one for the distinction of, yes, you want to look for authorities on a subject when you're finding evidence. The fallacy happens when you're saying, because this person has authority, everything they say is true, or because they lack specific authority in this area, everything they say is false. It's the hyperbolic attributes. Commercials, we're going to see this all the time, right? Doctors recommend, celebrities endorse. Think about McDonald's endorsing the Olympics and all these Olympic athletes holding up McDonald's food. And then as soon as the camera's off, their trainer's swatting it out of their hand, right? Next one then is a faulty analogy. This is one where you're going to compare two things and say, because they are alike in this way, they must be alike in every other way. So this could be, all kinds of things here. There's examples I gave here. No one objects to a physician looking up at difficulties in medical books. There is the similarity of those two is you are both trying to solve a problem, and books exist which you could refer to. But the analogy falls apart after that. So this is just a few. These we're going to start with just 4, and we'll be building from there. But again, you can see then all of these provide evidence and reasoning. It's just that the reasoning doesn't add up to the conclusion. Again, is it necessarily false? No, but it often is. The danger, though, is because it reaffirms what feels right and often what we want to be true.